My stepson Connor said it just as I was setting down a box of brand new basketball shoes I'd bought him. Size 11, black and crimson. The ones he'd pointed at a week ago in the mall window like a promise. You're just here until Mom finds someone better. He didn't even look at me when he said it. Just laced them up, stood, and walked out the door. It was a Tuesday. Sunlight through the kitchen window was soft, golden. The kind that usually made the mornings feel warm, whole. I stood there holding the empty shoebox, my knuckles tightening around the edge like it could somehow keep me rooted, like it could make me not hear what he'd said. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My mouth went dry, and my throat clamped shut like a vice. I turned, walked into the garage, shut the lid of my truck, and sat there in the dark, still holding the receipt. By the end of that hour, I had frozen our joint account, canceled every auto payment, and pulled out of that driveway before he could finish the sentence. Better never came, and I never looked back. My name's Kevin. I'm 45. For the past 4 years, I lived under the same roof with a woman named Jenna, her son Connor, and my daughter Liv. We met after both our divorces. 2 people wrecked by the same storm, hoping a second marriage could be calmer than the first. It wasn't. I moved to Valdosta for her, gave up my auto shop in Savannah, put my daughter in a new school, left behind friends, clients, everything I'd built with my own hands. Jenna always said Connor was just going through a phase. I wanted to believe her. God knows I did. I paid the rent, covered her car repairs, school lunches, health insurance for all of us. We weren't legally married, but I showed up like a husband, like a father, not just on holidays or weekends. Every morning I brewed coffee, packed lunches, signed permission slips. I drove Connor to practice, picked him up when his ride bailed, paid for his sports gear, his braces, the screen replacement on his phone after he dropped it twice. I remember once, when he got sick and couldn't go to a tournament, I drove 2 hours to the game alone just to record it for him. Brought home his teammates' signatures on a souvenir shirt. He never wore it. He looked at me that night and said, "Thanks." But the way he said it, it felt like obligation, like the word had to crawl out of him. Jenna called it typical teenage apathy. But it wasn't apathy. Apathy is neutral. This was sharper, like contempt with its edges filed down just enough to slip past polite conversation. I kept giving. Liv noticed before I did. Kids do. She's 13, quiet, sharp-eyed. The kind of girl who doesn't speak unless she means it. She'd come to me in the evenings, after Jenna and Connor were upstairs, and ask, "Why does he hate you?" I told her he didn't, that he was just young, that things take time. But inside I wasn't so sure. The cracks started small, the way hairline fractures do before a windshield caves in. Connor never said thank you. He'd raise his voice at Liv. Once, he locked her out of the house because she was annoying. She was 11. Left her standing outside for 20 minutes in the rain until Jenna came home and let her in. I was working a double shift at the time, patching up a leaking brake line in someone's garage for cash under the table. Jenna brushed it off. "He's just territorial." Territorial. Like the house was his kingdom and we were squatters. Liv cried. I told myself they'd warm up, that if I just kept showing up, consistent, patient, reliable, he'd come around. That's the lie stepfathers like me tell ourselves. If we sacrifice enough, they'll see the weight we carry. I bought Connor a laptop for school. Sleek, brand new, exactly the model he'd circled in the catalog. He sold it a month later, used the cash to buy a limited edition controller and some digital currency for his game. Paid for his field trip. He told his friends his real dad made it happen. Said it loud in the back seat one day, not knowing I could hear through the cracked window. Laughed when they said, "Damn, your dad's loaded." And still I kept paying, kept hoping, kept believing we were building a family. I remember one night we were all watching a movie in the living room. Something forgettable. Popcorn bowl between me and Liv. Connor walked in, sat between me and Jenna without a word, and put his feet on the coffee table. When I asked him to move them, he said, "It's just a table, relax." Jenna didn't say a word. That silence, that's what broke me more than anything. Not the disrespect. Not the lies. Not even the cost. It was her silence. Her choice to keep the peace instead of keeping me. Because when your partner refuses to demand respect on your behalf, they've already picked a side, and it isn't yours. But I didn't walk then. I told myself, next week will be better. Maybe when school calms down. Maybe after the holidays. Maybe when he turns 16. I stacked my sacrifices like bricks and called it a home. But the foundation was hollow. No roots. Just me, hauling weight no one asked me to carry, hoping someone would notice. They never did. And then came Sunday dinner. The last time I ever sat at that table with all of them and called it family. It was Jenna's sister who said it. We were sitting at her patio table, swatting mosquitoes and passing around paper plates stacked with pulled pork and buttered corn. The kind of family cookout that looks good on Facebook. Laughter in the background. Kids playing tag in the yard. Beers sweating in coolers. The illusion of harmony. Then someone made a joke. Jenna's brother, I think. Something about Connor having 2 dads now. Just a harmless dig. Must be nice, he said, nudging Connor with his elbow. 2 dads cheering you on. And Connor, without missing a beat, rolled his eyes and said it loud enough for the whole table to hear. He's just temporary. Once Mom finds someone decent, he's gone. The table froze. A beat of silence. Then laughter. Half-hearted. Awkward. Forced. Like they weren't sure if he was joking, but laughed anyway to keep it light. Jenna laughed too. That's what gutted me. Not the words. Not even the tone. Her laugh. That soft chuckle like it was just a silly thing kids say. I looked at her. She didn't look at me. She poured herself another drink. And I sat there with a full plate of food I suddenly couldn't eat. I didn't say a word. Just chewed slowly while something inside me cracked and kept cracking. Because that was the moment I understood. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a placeholder with a wallet. A guest. A working mule. A name on bills and nothing more. And I was done pretending otherwise. But even before that cookout, long before the signs were there, you tell yourself things. That it'll get better. That love is enough. That they'll see you eventually. But the truth was, Connor had been testing the limits from the beginning. Little acts of rebellion, cloaked in teenage defiance. But pointed. Intentional. He'd raise his voice at Liv. Once, he told her she should eat lunch in the school bathroom because she didn't have a real family, like the other girls. She came home crying. Jenna said he didn't mean it. He meant it. He'd hide the TV remote just before I came home. Lock his door if he heard me walking upstairs. Invite friends over without asking. Loud ones who mocked me behind my back and once left beer cans in the driveway. I asked Jenna to set some boundaries. She said, he's used to it just being the 2 of us. He needs time. Time. The magic word that buys excuses. He keyed my truck once. Scratched the word fake into the side panel with a house key. Claimed it wasn't him. Jenna said we couldn't prove it. That maybe it happened in a parking lot. She didn't want to confront him. I paid to repaint it. I always paid. I bought him a second laptop after he claimed the first one got stolen. Filed the police report myself. Found the exact model up for sale 2 weeks later on his friend's Facebook page. Jenna begged me not to push it. Said accusing him would damage the relationship. So I shut up. Again. I bought him new cleats for football season, custom, wide fit, with his initials stitched on the heel. He refused to wear them. Said they looked cheap. I paid his school registration fees. He told his teacher his uncle paid for it. He wore a hoodie to school that read, "Best Dad Ever." Said it was a gag gift from his real father. Not once did he acknowledge what I did. Not once did he look me in the eye and say thank you. But the resentment, that was loud. That was constant. There's a kind of rot that doesn't show on the surface. It lives under the paint, behind the smiles, between the pauses in conversation. That's what our house had become. Jenna kept playing mediator, always smoothing over the rough edges, always asking for one more chance. One more day, one more grace period. She told me he needed a male figure, that his father had abandoned him, that if I just kept showing up, Connor would realize I was different. But I wasn't different to Connor. I was a threat, a mirror that reflected what his father wasn't. And rather than face that truth, he turned his scorn on me. The Sunday dinner was the final blow. Not the words. Not even the look on Connor's face when he said them. It was the laughter. The way the table, our family, laughed with him. The way Jenna let it happen. The way no one pulled him aside and said, "That was wrong." They laughed because they agreed. Because deep down they saw me the same way he did. Replaceable. Expendable. Just a guest with a wallet. I finished my plate. Sat there in silence while the sun dipped behind the trees and the citronella candles burned low. When it was time to leave, I stood up, helped clear the table, and drove us home like nothing had happened. Jenna made small talk. Said her sister's new garden looked nice. Asked if I thought Liv seemed quiet. I told her I was tired. She didn't ask why. Didn't ask how I felt. Didn't say anything about what Connor had said. And I knew then she wasn't going to. You don't wake up one day and decide to quit a family. It's slow, like erosion. Every unanswered insult. Every deflected responsibility. Every night you fall asleep wondering if you matter to the people you feed. It builds. And eventually you stop hoping. You stop waiting for things to get better. You just start preparing for the exit. In your head first. Quietly. Like an escape plan you hope you'll never have to use. You stop paying for things up front. You let receipts stack instead of filing them. You move your login credentials to a password manager she doesn't know about. You pull the folder of your old lease from the back of the closet and start looking at rentals in cities where no one knows your name. You test what happens if you say no. You start imagining what it would feel like to breathe in a room where no one rolls their eyes when you speak. After that Sunday, I didn't talk to Connor unless I had to. I stopped cooking for him. Stopped driving him places. Stopped pretending. Jenna noticed. Said I was pulling away. I didn't argue, because she was right. I had been holding that family together with threads. And they were snapping one by one. All it took was one sentence. Said in front of the people who should have had my back, to turn resolve into action. You're just temporary. Not even cruel. Just honest. Brutally, perfectly honest. And sometimes that's worse. Sometimes that's the final truth you need to hear. Because once someone tells you where you stand, you don't ask for a chair. You just leave the table. I didn't yell. I didn't break things or make a scene or throw down ultimatums. No midnight arguments. No shouting in the driveway. That's the part they never expected. I left quietly. By Monday morning, our bank account was half what it had been. Exactly half. The number Jenna and I had agreed on when we first opened it together. 50-50. Just until we're married. We never got married. I opened a new account in my name only. Called the bank. Changed the billing address. Took my name off the electric and water. Moved the car insurance to a solo policy. Checked the box that removed Connor from the plan. The internet went out that Tuesday. Connor came into the kitchen holding the router like it was my fault gravity existed. Did you forget to pay again? I was eating toast. Calm. Methodical. No, I said. I canceled it. You what? He blinked like I'd spoken a language he didn't recognize. You heard me. Jenna looked up from her phone. Confused. Wait, why? I looked her dead in the eye and said, because I'm not paying for people who don't respect me. Connor scoffed. Is this about the cookout? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. By Wednesday, his phone stopped working. I'd cut the line that I'd been paying for since he was 15. The one he used to FaceTime friends, to stream music, to text his real dad updates on how much he hated me. He came home red-faced, holding it up like it was broken. I need this for school. No, I said. You use it for everything but school. And I don't owe you a thing. Mom, he shouted. Jenna rubbed her temples. Kevin, please, let's talk about this. No, I said. You had your chance. Thursday, he tried to get to his college orientation. I used to drive him. He hadn't gotten his license yet. Always said he'd get around to it. I let him lean on me. Always made excuses for him. That morning, he walked out the front door expecting the usual. I didn't follow. Just sat on the couch drinking coffee, watching him through the window. 5 minutes later, he came back in. You coming or not? Nope. You serious? As a heart attack. He threw his backpack at the floor. You're ruining everything. I stood, walked into my office, came back with the lease agreement. I handed it to him with my name removed. You're on your own now. He stared at the paper like it was written in flames. What the hell is this? It's reality. He looked to Jenna. She just stood there, frozen, watching me like she didn't recognize the man who'd put a roof over her head for 4 years. Say something. Connor shouted at her. She didn't. She couldn't. That Friday, I started moving things into storage. Not everything. Just what was mine. Tools, paperwork, clothes, a few pieces of furniture I'd bought with cash and kept the receipts for. I didn't take the TV. I didn't take the dining table. I didn't even take the microwave. I left the house intact. But I made sure it was clear. I wasn't part of it anymore. Liv helped me pack. She didn't ask questions. Just folded clothes, taped boxes, and said nothing. That night, we sat on the back steps with 2 sodas and a bag of chips between us. She looked up at me and asked, "Where will we go?" I told her, "Somewhere we're wanted." She nodded like she already knew. 2 weeks later, I signed a lease on a second-floor apartment in Atlanta. Not fancy, but clean. 2 windows full of sunlight. A quiet neighborhood. A bedroom just for Liv. A little patch of balcony where I could drink coffee and hear myself think. I didn't tell Jenna. I didn't owe her that. I packed slow, quiet, intentional. Took only what I needed and left the rest. Left a note and my keys on the kitchen table. Didn't say goodbye. The morning we left, Liv stood in the hallway holding her stuffed animal. The same one she'd had since before the divorce. She looked up at me and said, "I'm glad we'll have a place where no one has to fake anything." I didn't cry, but I could have. Because that's what this had become, a life built on pretending. Pretending I wasn't resented. Pretending Jenna didn't know. Pretending I could give and one day earn my seat at the table. But no amount of dinners cooked, no checks written, no cars fixed or bills paid could rewrite the script they'd already committed to memory. I was an outsider, a visitor, a man they tolerated for what he could offer. And now I was done offering. I didn't hear from Jenna for weeks. No phone call, no email, not even a text. She let me go the same way she let me stay, passively, quietly, with the silence of someone who'd never defended me, never stood beside me, never told her son to treat me like more than a bank account with a driver's license. Liv didn't ask about her. I didn't either. We unpacked one box at a time, built a home from scratch. A home with no resentment under the floorboards, no bitterness in the corners. Just 2 people who knew how much they meant to each other. And then, 1 month after we left, the first message came. A simple text. Things are hard. Connor's having a tough time. He didn't mean what he said. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. 2 months later, an email. Long, winding, full of half-hearted apologies and vague memories of the good times. Said she missed me. Said the house felt empty. It didn't mention Liv once. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because I'd made my peace. I wasn't going back to a life where I was never seen, where respect was a conditional currency, handed out only when it was convenient. Today I wake up before sunrise, make coffee, watch the light climb the wall of our living room while Liv reads on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her. She tells me about her science project, about how she wants to build something with her hands, like I used to do. She smiles when she says it, not out of obligation, but because she means it. I look at her and I see everything I kept, not everything I lost, because knowing your worth isn't arrogance. It's survival. And no, better never came, because it never does. And thank God for that. The second week in the new apartment, Liv taped a paper sign to her door. It read, "My room, peace only." She drew a small heart in the corner. I didn't touch it, still haven't. It's faded now, curling at the edges, but it stays. We've built our mornings around quiet things. Hot cereal, folded laundry, Small music through the radio. Nothing loud. Nothing sharp. Just life, unstretched. There are no slammed doors here. No glares across dinner tables. No tight-lipped silences packed with judgment. If Liv's upset, she tells me. If I'm tired, I say so. We don't pretend. That's the difference. It's not perfect, but it's real. And after everything I left behind, that's enough. Took Jenna a month to text. Took her 2 to send the email. Neither surprised me. What did surprise me was the tone. Flat, tentative. As if she wasn't sure where we'd landed. She used phrases like, just checking in, and Connor's been struggling. No responsibility. Just gentle shifts of blame into the ether. She wrote, he misses you, even if he won't say it. I deleted the email. Not because I was angry, but because it didn't matter. I'm not going back. Not to that house. Not to that life. Not to the version of myself that clung to a family that never wanted me. I'd stopped hoping for a thank you years ago. But there's a difference between being unappreciated and being erased. And that's what they did. Erased me. All the nights I came home bone-tired from work and still made dinner? Erased. The time I drove through a storm to pick Connor up from a party because his real dad never showed? Gone. The shoes, the phone, the laptop, the braces, the school trip, the tutoring, the job recommendation letter, wiped clean like I was a temporary caretaker, not a man who built his life around them. You can only stomach that kind of revision so many times before you stop trying to belong. One afternoon, Liv found a stack of old photos in a moving box. She flipped through them slowly, birthdays, trips to the zoo, the 4 of us smiling into a camera like nothing was wrong. She held up one with Connor sitting on my shoulders, maybe 10 years old. It was from the first year, back when he called me Kev, before the venom, before the wall. Do you want to keep these? She asked. I looked at the photo, studied it like a stranger, saw the mask on my own face, the kind of smile men wear when they're begging to be seen. No, I said. You can toss them. Liv nodded and did. No questions. No second glance. Felt like closing a door that should have been shut years ago. There's a weight that leaves you when you stop performing for people who will never clap. For 4 years, I kept trying to earn a place I was never meant to have. I paid every bill, fixed every problem, absorbed every slight. I told myself that being consistent would win them over, that love could fill in the cracks left by biology. But love without reciprocation isn't noble. The self-erasure. And I erased myself for that house, for Jenna's comfort, for Connor's future, for a family that only wanted the benefits, not the man behind them. Now, I get to exist without asking permission. And that's worth everything I walked away from. Sometimes I think about Connor. Not out of bitterness. Just curiosity. I wonder if he ever asked where the money stopped coming from. If he connected the loss to his words. If Jenna ever told him the truth. That you can't insult the roof over your head and still expect shelter. I doubt it. Boys like him, raised in a house where accountability is a dirty word, don't reflect. They react. They rage. They find someone else to blame. Maybe he tells people I was cruel. That I abandoned them. That I disappeared. Let him. He told me what I was. Temporary. I just gave him what he asked for. Jenna tried once more. A voicemail this time. I didn't answer. Her voice was thinner than I remembered. Tired. She said, I miss you. I miss how stable everything was. Connor's angry all the time. He doesn't listen to me anymore. I know you felt unappreciated. I know I didn't handle things right. But we need help. He needs a father figure. I sat on the balcony, phone in hand, sunlight on my face. And I said nothing, because I wasn't their father. I was their infrastructure, their foundation, their silent paycheck, their backup plan. And I'm done being a blueprint for people who don't want to build anything real. The thing people don't understand is that stepfathers aren't just men who marry women with children. We're volunteers in someone else's story. Ghosts who carry groceries, fix broken faucets, buy birthday gifts for kids who won't say thank you. And we do it hoping, praying, that one day someone will say, I see you. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they laugh at the cookout while you choke on your pride. Sometimes they call you temporary while wearing the shoes you bought. And sometimes the only way to survive is to leave, to cut the power, to walk away, to let the house go dark. People ask if I'd ever do it again, date another woman with kids, build another blended family. I don't answer right away, because the truth is complicated. I love Jenna. I tried for Connor. I gave them everything I had. But love without boundaries becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice without recognition becomes self-harm. So maybe the real question is, would I ever stop seeing myself again for someone else's comfort? And that answer is easy. Never. Some nights, Liv and I sit on the floor, eating takeout out of the containers, watching old movies on the laptop. She laughs more now, talks more. There's a light in her I didn't realize we were dimming, trying to live inside someone else's broken framework. She asked me last week, "Do you think Connor ever thinks about us?" I said, "Maybe." She nodded. "Do you miss them?" I thought about it. About the house, the table, the tension, the effort. And I said, "No. I miss who I thought they were, but they never existed." She didn't ask anything else. So here we are. Two people who weren't enough for the family we tried to build, but who are more than enough for each other. And that's the truth no one talks about. Sometimes, family isn't what you inherit. It's what you protect. Liv is mine, not by blood, but by bond. And I'll never let her question her place the way I did in that house. Not ever. So now I ask you, whoever's reading this, whoever's been the second place at someone else's table, was I wrong to walk away? Was I cruel to cut the cord, to stop feeding mouths that spit on the hand that fed them? Or was this the only way left to prove that respect isn't negotiable? That no man should go broke trying to buy love that was never for sale? Tell me, would you have stayed?